Hi, I'm Saida Garrett, co-writer of Michael Jackson's Man in the Mirror, and you're listening to Rainbow Country with Mr. Mark Tara.
Today on Rainbow Country, the most recent evicted house guest from Big Brother Canada, Season 11.
House guests, I have the results. Daniel and Renee, we have a tie. That means, Anika, as head of household, it is up to you to decide who is out. Please stand and cast your vote to evict.
So I very sadly vote to evict Renee. I'm so sorry.
That means, Renee, you have been evicted from the Big Brother Canada manor. Please get your things and say your goodbyes.
Let's just jump right in, Renee. The vote, a tie. Anika breaks the tie, and here we are today. Did that vote surprise you?
The vote didn't surprise me. I knew that, Ty was going to end up giving his vote to Daniel, and I had a very strong urge and feeling that Anika would never turn on Daniel. So not surprising, but devastating nonetheless, for sure.
So, Renee, you survived a fatal feast, a double eviction, yet here we are. Is there anyone in particular that you hold responsible for your eviction?
This one I do put it mainly on Ty. We had the plan, a plan to execute for that week. He claims he got very spooked by this 30-second conversation between me and Anika. And it didn't look like there was much I could do to persuade him by the end of it. But I feel like there's been a long history of Ty either trying to target me and or, get me out throughout the game. So I think he just, maybe he meant it at some point that he wanted to see us continuing forward, but he took his shot when he had it.
You were part of a female alliance, the Girly Pops. You were also head of household. What would you say was your biggest move in the game?
I think my biggest moves in the game were, apart from my HOH or leading up to my HOH, was how I was positioning myself in the house without making it too obvious. Yes, I was at the bottom. Yes, I was on the block. Yes, there were a lot of things that were disadvantages and obstacles for me. But I think it put me in positions where I had to talk to a lot of people and kind of start situating people's games in the house. So I knew where to try to get myself positioned in the house so that I could set myself up for success for the rest of the season. However, as a player, I think people really recognized me when I came through on that HOH win and started looking at my game a bit differently. So HOH is the most obvious one to say. However, I think how I was playing the game up until that point and trying to get myself out of the tough and rocky positions I was in were more of like the highlights for me.
Renee, how would you describe your game relationship with Ty?
Me and Ty have a very, very interesting game relationship. He came in night one and he's like, you should give me your loyalty and who do you want to target? Who do you think is this? Who would you put on the block? And for me, that was a lot coming in just on day one to hear and see, because I wasn't sure how I was going to perform in those challenges. And it really at first comes down to that. And how, if you come off a little too strong, as we saw in JM's case, you can end up being backdoored or targeted for that reason. So I think for a lot of the game, he keeps preaching and saying that he's tried to work with me. But for me, with Ty, I was always going to be his second best. And in order to try to get a really solid, loyal alliance that would go until the end, I needed to knock the people out around him so that he could start seeing me as a player that was actually valuable to take forward. So I think for that, we had a very tumultuous relationship, and we tried coming together a little too late, and the trust was already kind of wonky at that point.
Renee, would you consider yourself a fan, a super fan, or someone who's new to Big Brother?
It depends how you define super fan. And I said this a lot in the house. I am definitely a fan of the Big Brother game. I have loved watching this game for season after season after season. I've been watching like avidly since season 3. However, in terms of like remembering details and how people did certain things and names and all that, sometimes I'm not the greatest with it. So if you consider someone who's watched all the seasons, I am a super fan for sure. No doubt. I love the game. But my details on the game get kind of wonky, but a fan for sure, 100%.
Did you have a strategy going into the game?
No. I just knew that the biggest thing I wanted to see getting into the game, and that was going to really determine how the trajectory of my game was going to go, was the people that were in it. That's the biggest unknown variable of this game. You walk in and you don't know who you're expecting there. You don't know what you're going to get. So I had no strategy. However, I did want to play a very, very strong social strategy game, even if I was performing well in competitions, to make my whole idea was to make other people think that my moves were their moves and were the best for them. So I tried to persuade in that sense, but not one set strategy, no.
Renee, who would you say is playing the best game?
I think on paper, Ty just has a very obvious and huge resume. He is the epitome and definition of a competition beast, especially someone that's been targeted week after week. For him to be able to actually physically remove himself from the block and keep himself out of harm's way is no easy feat. And so for those reasons, I think he's a very, very strong player, and he's an aggressive player at that. However, I do think that Daniel has played such like an outstanding social game. How he's gone about it, maybe I don't agree with all the points, but that would be up to him to pitch at the end.
So you're off to the jury. What kind of gameplay will you be looking for when you get to cast your vote for the winner of Big Brother Canada Season 11?
Oh my gosh, such a good question, and it's something I think about often. I am a diehard fan of the game, as I mentioned, and I do definitely want to see somebody that's gone through the grit and has had to pull themselves out of tough situations, and they've been resilient throughout, and they've had their hands in moves, and they've been working on the game. I want somebody who eats, slept, and breathes the game the whole time. We had a lot of really, really strong players who took L's and had to leave because of one thing or the other, or got evicted for one reason or the other. And I think I want to try to encapsulate like that resiliency, the toughness, the independence, the confidence that our whole season like exuded the whole time. So I think at the end, I want someone who has the charisma of the season, who can represent that, who has the poise of the season, who has the turbulence of the season wrapped up in their game. And again, someone that can show that they were really, really on top of the game the whole time. And even when they lost their footing or something didn't work out in their favor, how did they bounce back and get to where they are now? So those will all be traits that I'm definitely eyeing, looking out for.
Hardest part about playing Big Brother?
The emotional turmoil is the first thing. Like for me, the physical side was actually very, very difficult. I don't consider myself like, a big, strong, tough competition, beast. However, I never considered myself someone that, would do as poorly as I did in some of those competitions. So I think the physical tiredness of it was something that was like shocking to me, but also the emotional, like the baggage you kind of bring in from your regular life, like your insecurities are all heightened and thrown in front of your face. So trying to navigate those throughout the game while you're trying to play a game at that, I think was super, super tough for me.
Renee, best part about being part of Big Brother Canada season 11.
Oh my gosh, that I'm not like watching it from home on my own TV. Like, to be a part of the game is truthfully an unreal privilege and experience to be a part of. I definitely was not expecting to get where I am now with it and how far I made it. And going through everything and seeing, I kept reminding people throughout the game, like I played most of the competitions, to be honest, but the odd time that I got to sit out and watch a competition, I was generally there as a fan. And like, to have that fan aspect and to be watching the game and seeing it happen, but you're also a player, was so rewarding, so unbelievably, like, I can't even put it into words, the feeling that you get doing it, the bond that you build with people, the laughs, the highs, the lows. I wouldn't change anything for a second. And it just, the whole experience together and with the people that you're doing it with is truly unbelievable and so special.
Renee, well said, well done, well played. Thanks for your time. Thanks for being on the show.